Yes guys, and welcome from me, this is Championship Manager 0102. The D.T.L Season 6 is edging closer because we are now at the best part of the game, in my opinion. We are at the auction stage. The auction stage kicked in late last night. So, in a nutshell, Mark's been away and it's summer holiday, so, you know, he's got work commitments and shit. So the last sort of month has all been about haggles. Where we've all been haggling with each other to pull deals over the line. And I think Mark even said this, I read this morning, it's probably a record for the number of haggles, and that's what makes it so brilliant. The haggles has been crazy. Obviously, I think every person, myself included, has had an eye on the auctions. The auctions have kicked in, they've kicked in last night, more about that in a moment, but I believe we've now got 10 auctions, each consisting of 25 players. So that's going to be 250 players in the pool. So people don't want to toss off their money, you know. Obviously not. Now for me, this is what we've been doing at Wolverhampton Wanderers. We've done a lot of business at Wolves. You know, in all fairness, I've even wrote my shit down, so because I'm a little bit of a fucking geek like that. But I was doing it slightly different, the way I was lining up my D.T.L, who I was going for, who I was getting rid of. I had a list of players that I wanted to keep, had a list of players that I wanted to get rid of, had a list of players that I've purchased, and a list of players that I've sold, and a list of players that I've got rid of to CPU. Now, you all know how CPU works. Mark gives every manager a selection of players that have got generic CPU bids in order to try and cash in on them. For me, I got rid of several players on CPU, and I just want to check something very, very, very quickly. Yeah, so I got rid of 6 players to CPU. I got rid of Martins, he went for £2.2 million. Berg Hested went for 1.3. Reynoso went for 1.2. Till went for 3.3. Ifil went for 4.7. Epale went for 3.9. Mascora went for 7.2, Fernando Rickson 2.3, and Thiago Silva went for £8 million. Now, we were going to get rid of Mark Kerr for 3.5, but before I got rid of him to CPU, I forget who it was, I think it was Dermatron, Southampton came back in for Mark Kerr. He's gone for 4.8. We got rid of Gambarini for £1 million, and we offloaded 4 players on a free transfer. Atmanzis went on a free, Serkos went on a free, Jeremic went on a free, and believe it or not, Brozek went on a free. I have my reasons, I'm not going to indulge as to why, but they all went on a free. We have technically still got 7 players out available for transfer. Probably I'm going to offer them out all on a free, to be honest with you. And the reason I wanted to fuck players off was because I want to build space in my team. But in terms of what we've got going on at Wolves, we did a bit of business. We brought in 6 players. The first player we brought in actually is one error. There's always going to be an error or so that Mark might miss, and you know, he relies on feedback because he's only human. I don't give a shit. He should get it right. And one of them was Jerome Rofen. We nailed him on a $3 million deal from I think it was Dermatron. I think Dermatron Southampton. And so he's actually our player, Rofen. We also brought in Jackie McNamara. We brought in Jackie McNamara. I like the look of him. I do like the look of him. We brought in a left back, Philippe. We brought in Philippe. I like the look of him. The big marquee player I feel we bought, we paid £7.5 million for him, was Julius Agahoa. Djordjevic we also brought in, the left winger, and we also brought in Cedric van der Gun. Now, you've got to remember now, we're on 3.968 now, so it's not 3.960. There are some differences, and one of which, you know, a good example here is Agahoa is not an attacking midfielder, forward, right, left, centre, he's just a forward. There are a lot of differences like in that sense. And obviously, the players that you see in my squad are the players that I've still got, including the ones that I've just mentioned that I've still got available for transfer. Those ones for transfer that I'm happy to fuck off, basically, are Anderson, Ebidi, Cruzado, Pyrini, Angles, Girardi and Ivan Perez. They could all go on a free transfer. We've got about £58 million, I think I worked out, in our bank after all the dealings. The squad isn't amazing, in all fairness. I have kept hold of certain players for one reason or another. Now Jensen was a midfielder on the ODB. The 3.968, he's now an attacking midfielder. I know where we need to work on. I know what the unlocked formations are. I know the formation I'm going to play, or at least I'm going to start at. So we will see. We will see how we go. So the auctions are out, and there's a few good players on the auction list one. I won't say that they're not top shelf, in my opinion. And that, there's a part of me, far be it from me to tell Mark how to do the game, but I'd have personally put one worldie on that auction one in order to encourage people to fucking spunk their budget straight away. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I've gone through it, and I've picked up on. I mean, we can all make 5 bids. That's the rule, and we'll all PM Mark probably over the weekend with 5 bids. I've narrowed my shortlist down to 8 players that I'm looking to make a bid for. Might not even make a bid for 5 players, because I don't want to start. There's lots of shortlists. There's lots of auctions that are going to take place. Now one thing I don't know. I was going to write this on discussion. I could be wrong on this now. What I'm going to say. So the way I read it, right. So if a player is at no club. Like so. So does that mean that this guy has never been in D.T.L and could come on the auctions? Is that what that means? Paul Scholes could come on the auction, for example. Veron could come. And the reason I'm saying is that the case, because if we look at, let's say, Sava, Facundo Sava, he's at Boca. So he's at a club. So the way I read it is, if they're at a club, then that means that they've been in D.T.L at some point and they will not be recycled. If they're not at a club, so I could be wrong. So if anyone can clarify on that, let me know. I thought I'd do that on video than put a post up. Because I've looked round at I mean, there's no guarantee Scholes is going to come on the auctions this season, because Mark, he can't. If he did say he's not going to recycle players, and when I say recycle players, I mean. People that have sold players to CPU, those players are in theory out the game. Mark's not going to reuse them, and I thought he'd probably need to, but he probably won't, because there's fucking thousands of players. But these auctions alone this season is going to be 250 players, so I don't know. And you've got to think to yourself, he's going to do 3.968 again. So in theory, if he's having, I think they said 5 seasons at this database. Now, if that's the case, that's going to be 1,250 players coming in this database. Do you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But it is very, very exciting. And I think, this is what we've waited for. For me personally, because I'm a cunt like that, and I like to speak about myself, because I'm self-absorbed. So I've made a note of all the players that I've brought. We brought in Djordjevic from Wolves, which was Reese, for £1 million. We got rid of Jeremic to Newcastle on a free transfer. We got rid of Brozovic to Durham over at Southampton on a free transfer. We got rid of Svekos to Blackburn, just a ghost, on a free transfer. We brought in Julius Agahoa and Cedric van der Gun from Marimo for a combined £10 million. I broke that down to £7.5 million for Agahoa, £2.5 million for Van der Gun. Gambarini went to Hull City, AMC, for £1 million. Went to Newcastle on a free transfer, the goalkeeper. Felipe arrived from Trunky at Colchester for £2 million. Jackie McNamara arrived from Arsenal, Marimo, for £1.3 million. Rotham arrived for £2.5 million from Southampton. Durham. Mark Kerr went to Durham for £4.8 million. And then I've got a list of the players that went on the CPU. So as it stands, to my reckoning, we have £58.3 million available spends for the auctions with a squad size of 36. Now, the first thing I did, right, when I downloaded this save last night is I went to Wolves and I went to that and I thought, right, straight away, I'm missing a player. And I worked out it's Rotham that I'm missing. So it's all good. In terms of, let's have a quick gander at some of our new recruits then. Within D.T.L, and two people I'm quite familiar with. We will start with our very own Scarlet One, aka Matt. Now, Matt inherited the Newcastle setup, and I remember Matt says, because I remember speaking to Matt, because I play my online game with Matt, and he says, he asked me my views on D.T.L, and I said D.T.L I think is really good, particularly the auctions. I think the auctions are great. It's a bit like when you do fantasy football at this time. You know, everyone's building their teams and shit, and it's the most exciting part is at the very it is now. So there was one deal that I thought was quite interesting that I think Matt made, and that was with fellow newbie Neil over at Leicester. They did an exchange of Mapenza for Anelka. Now, I don't know much about Mapenza. I know Anelka on ODB will score goals. I don't know 3.968. That will be interesting. Another interesting exchange saw Joe Cole arrive at Newcastle in exchange for Robben. Now, that was a tricky one because to me, Joe Cole ODB is a monster. Robben might not be the monster that Joe Cole is season 1, but longevity of it, Robben is the bollocks. We all know Robben in real life. So subsequently on the updates is a fucking worldie. So they were two things that really stuck out for me with regards Matt. Meanwhile, Neil at Leicester City. Now I know that let's just see, he's in the Premier League. Let's have a look what he's got. So he's got Robben, as I said. And he's got Mapenza, but I did look actually, and I actually think he's got some really good players actually. Neil, I think he's got some real solid players. I think his defence needs a little bit of strengthening, possibly. I do like Sagnol. I think Sagnol's a great player. Mutu, I think is a good player, and I think Mutu will get better in the next update or two. I think he's got a soft spot for Danny Murphy being a Scouser. Oh, look, that guy here, Sebastian Kerl, he's a sweeper, isn't he? / DMC on the ODB. So, it's quite interesting. Zickler's not actually a bad player. David Prutton. We all know David Prutton, of course. He's not got the biggest squad in the world. I think that's quite interesting. I didn't look at that on Matt. So 28 then for Leicester City. Let's just check what Matt's got. 24. So those guys have some real big space to work with for the auctions. Now, one other thing before I fuck off, right? Now, this really took me by surprise, and I was really shocked at this. And now, I ain't going to lie to you here. I'm going to be really, really honest about how I did this. I was shocked to see Marimo over at Arsenal offload Zidane. And I was, let me just try and find him on another page. I don't think he updates his individual. Maybe he does, actually. Maybe he does. Oh, he don't do his individual transfers. So, Marimo... No, Marimo, he's updated that wrong. So, Marimo was getting rid of a load of players to CPU. Oh, tell a lie, sorry, scrap that. No, I'm reading it now. So he got rid of players to CPU, and he was getting rid of Zidane. And he ended up selling him, I think, a little bit more in cash to a fellow player. Let me just remind myself now who that player was. I can't quite remember. It was AMC over at Hull City. I forget how much it was. But Zidane, now, I ain't going to lie to you, right? I thought to myself, fucking hell, he's selling a little bit. So I swooped in for the Agahoa and Van der Gun. And I think the tactic I think Marimo's doing for the auctions is he's built himself a bank balance. I did a little bit of research into it, thinking, okay, I get what he's doing. He's offloaded Sorin for $4.5 million. Henrik Larsson. Now, who did he sell to Henrik Larsson? To Culture, so Trunky. I mean, Trunky, of all people, Trunky. He sells him to the... I mean, to be honest with you, that's a great signing. I took McNamara off him. I took Van der Gun. He sold Danny Mills. Who did he sell Kool-Aid to? I want to say that was Newcastle. It was Newcastle. And no, you know, I'm really surprised. He's brought a couple of players in. Nothing amazing. He brought Franca for a lot of money. A ridiculous amount of money personally. He's bought Franca for 16.3 million. And when you're selling Zidane, so I'm intrigued to see how Marimo is going to go. I think Marimo's quite interesting in the sense of I don't know. He's going to have a lot of money to work with, and he's still got some decent players. But I remember him saying every player's available for transfer. I sent him a PM, apart from his goalkeepers. I'm sure that's what he said. Let's look at. Not actually got some bad goalkeepers, to be honest with you. So we will see. So, in terms of, let's have a talk about the champion. Let's talk about the champion. You know, we have to give him status, don't we? We'll give him status. Trunky is the current champion. And let's have a look at his wheeling and dealing then. I mean, you've got to give Trunky credit. I think he is very smart. You know, it pains me to say that. You know, it pains me to say it, and hopefully he'll send me that £5 note he said if I say that on the next video. So he sold a few players out to CPU, and right, he hasn't actually updated his stuff, has he? What a wanker! He's only done his CPU sell, but no, tell a lie. Tell a lie. Sorry, no, you're not a wanker. Sorry, please send the £5. He's brought in Hakan Suka. Now I think he's brought in some. Did he buy Hakan Suka? Oh, sorry, apologies. He sold Hakan Suka. He's brought in, now this is an interesting one actually, he's brought in Ibrahim Saeed. Now I don't know how good Saeed is on the 3.968. We knew he brought Larson. He sold he sold Julio Marchand, and he sold Philippe to me. So I think he's already got quite an assembled setup, I feel. And I remember I was looking at a left back. I brought the left back, of course, Philippe, and I was looking at De Horno. So I actually think think he's got himself a really good. He still has got himself a really good team. Of course, bit of history with him, of course, is Vieira. That's when he took advantage of me being a virgin on D.T.L, and he swooped to buy him in exchange for Montero. I'm never going to live that down in my own fucking world, let alone in his fucking mind. But yeah, you know, credit where it's due. You know, he's done really well. He really has built. Okay, Dermatron. I think we should look at Dermatron. Dermatron has been very, very active in the market. There's no doubt about that. Let's have a look. So Mark Kerr. Let's start with Mark Kerr. Let's just so I'm putting it up on a page at the same time. Yeah, he's been busy. Mark Kerr rejoins. Now let's have a look at Mark Kerr. I was happy to get rid of him to CPU. Now, when I put him that he was going to CPU, Derm came in and said, I'll give you 3.5, which is what I was selling him to CPU. Now, in reality, we don't want to see players going to CPU because then they get exhausted out of the game. Derm says, I'll offer you 3.5. And actually, Marimo came in as well. And I went back to Derm first and I said, look, 4.8 and we have a deal. And I said to Marimo, I've negotiated it down and I'll let you know. Derm came back, said, yeah, good deal, and there you go, job done. Now, I think one of the best deals I think Derm got is actually one of my former players from Wolves. Franca left to go to Arsenal. 16.3 million. I was absolutely really surprised at that. For the simple reason, Marimo offloaded Zidane. Now, unless he knows something that I don't, which he might. Who knows? But Derm's been active with regards to player to player. But in terms of arrivals, it was really Mark Kerr. Now, who was the other one now? And then Okan. Okan. Where is he? Where is Okan? Okan joined. I'm sure that's what. No, maybe he didn't join. No, sorry, I got that wrong. Sorry, I'm reading it wrong. He joined the Gunners. He joined the Gunners also, yeah. Okay, so Franca and Ockham both went. Marcelino went to Newcastle. Gallardo went as well. Gallardo, I think, went to Leicester City. So, in terms of what Mark was saying about it's been a record for the Haggles, it really has. And it's because of that, Mark used to do a CPU bid for every single player. And I think there was players I wanted to get rid of and didn't get the CPU bid, but it's to encourage the Haggles, and it really has worked. There's no doubt about that. So I'm going to leave it at that with regards. I'm not going to go into everyone's dealings and shit like that. I think there weren't too much dealings from certain people. I don't think Redders had a very quiet. I think he was on holiday for a week, so he missed out on a lot of auction, a lot of deals. People putting their transfer list up and shit like that. So we're off and running then, guys. And I think the next video will be once the auctions are up and going. Like I said, I've got a good thing in my head who I'm going to go for. I even know roughly how much I'm going to bid, and so on and so on. And until next time from me, guys, and a D.T.L, it's take it easy from me.